Before we begin, I want you to sit with one thought. What if the most advanced AI tools we have right now aren't here to replace us, distract us, or pull us into the future? What if they're here to show us who we've always been? Because every time I create an avatar, every time I write a scene, every time I bring Bliss or Ice onto the screen, I'm not just telling a story, I'm revealing one. A story about the mind, a story about intuition, a story about the parts of ourselves we never say out loud. And today, I want to take you inside that journey. Because this isn't a video about artificial intelligence. This is a video about human intelligence, about the inner world we carry but rarely understand. So let's start with something simple, something true. Humans don't think in data. We think in stories. We don't communicate in code. We communicate in emotion. And we don't understand ourselves in lists. We understand ourselves in characters.
Even today, when you think about all of the geopolitics and the economics and all of the changes that are happening in the world, I would still dare say that the biggest disruptor in our world today is artificial intelligence. The biggest disruptor to your cities is going to be artificial intelligence. And the reason for that is that it's still the world's best hidden secret, believe it or not. It's still most of us use AI to write an email or to ask a question. But what you don't realize is that in the last few months alone, we've discovered the cure for cancer. We've redefined mathematics. We've understood the human genome in ways we have never before, to the point that we can now pinpoint to a single gene using artificial intelligence to ask what would be the impact on a human in real-time simulations. Right? When you really think about it, as a geek, I will tell you that I'm blown away by the possibilities.
That's why tools like HeyGen are so powerful, because for the first time in the history of storytelling, the invisible parts of the human mind can be made visible. Our intuition, our logic, our fears, our empathy, our inner conflicts, our archetypes, they can step out of the background and take the stage. We were always here, you just finally gave us a face. And once something has a face, it can be understood, analyzed, filed, improved, which I prefer, by the way. This is what I mean when I say AI isn't the future of storytelling. AI is the future of understanding. It helps us create characters that represent thoughts we never express, feelings we can't quite name, and instincts we don't necessarily trust yet. And if you're an INFJ like me, you know exactly what I mean.
Every time I land in Dubai, I do what we normally call it the UAE test, which is to leave your phone, wallet, laptop open on a table, then disappear for 10 minutes and come back and find that they're still there, right? The reason that this is the reality of the life that we live here is because of the use of technology. The UAE enforcement forces are capable of identifying if something is lost, are capable of identifying if a crime is done. And in the history of the years I've lived here, in the rare occasion when something goes wrong, it's a matter of minutes to hours before the perpetrator is identified. Now, there are other cities in the world, I wouldn't mention names, I'm all over the world all the time, where the same technology applies, but it's used differently. It's not used for the benefit of the citizen, rather maybe for the oppression of the citizen or the monitoring of the citizen and so on and so forth.
INFJs don't just think, we narrate. We don't just feel, we interpret. We don't just observe, we absorb. And for years, most of that inner world stayed locked inside our minds. But now, technology has finally caught up with intuition. And today, I'm going to show you something groundbreaking. AI avatars aren't replacing storytellers. AI avatars are letting us meet the storytellers living inside our own heads. Welcome to the future of narrative psychology. Welcome to the future of emotional intelligence. Welcome to the future of storytelling. Now, let's go deeper. Chapter 2, Why Humans Tell Stories. Every culture on Earth, no matter how distant or disconnected, has one thing in common: storytelling. Before language, before writing, before structures or laws or any form of organized society,
Humans told stories. We carved them into stone. We whispered them around fires. We passed them down through memory when everything else around us disappeared. And there's a reason for that. Stories aren't entertainment. Stories are survival. For thousands of years, storytelling has been the human brain's way of organizing chaos. It's how we make meaning. It's how we understand patterns. It's how we make sense of what we cannot control. A story is the brain saying, this is who we are, this is what happened, this is what it means, and this is how we move forward. Stories turn experience into memory, memory into identity, identity into action. Without stories, the human mind is just raw information with no direction. And stories are not linear. They are emotional. We remember the parts that hurt us, healed us, changed us, or awakened us. We remember what our hearts felt long before we remember what our eyes saw. Stories live in the body. Stories live in the breath. Stories live in the places we never speak aloud.
From a neurological perspective, that is accurate. Storytelling activates the prefrontal cortex, the limbic system, and the sensory regions simultaneously. It is one of the few processes that engage logic, emotion, memory, prediction, and simulation. This is why humans respond to stories faster than they respond to facts. A story is data wrapped in meaning. This is why the stories we tell ourselves matter just as much as the stories we hear. Your inner narrative shapes your confidence, your boundaries, your identity, your resilience, and for personality types like the INFJ, the internal story is everything. We don't simply remember events. We absorb patterns. We interpret motives. We create sequences. We sense what's coming. We combine truth with intuition, and that becomes our internal script. For some people, storytelling is expression. For INFJs, storytelling is structure. It's how we make sense of a world that often doesn't make sense at all. We tell stories to stay connected. We tell stories to stay sane. And for the first time in history, technology is giving us a way to take those inner stories and bring them to life. Not metaphorically, not symbolically, literally. We can build the voices inside our minds. We can shape them, give them faces, give them language, give them presence. This is why the future of storytelling is not about AI replacing human creativity. It's about AI revealing human psychology. Because when you can see your inner world, you can understand it. When you can understand it, you can transform it. And that is where this journey leads. Now that we understand why humans tell stories, let's look at why our minds create characters inside those stories. Chapter 3, the mind's internal characters. If you really think about it, the human mind is never silent. Even when we are quiet on the outside, something else is always speaking on the inside. And we don't speak with one voice, we speak with many. There's the voice that comforts you, the voice that warns you, the voice that questions everything, the voice that protects you, the voice that remembers the past, and the voice that imagines the future. These inner voices are not random, they're not chaotic, they're not symptoms of stress or confusion. They're structure. They're characters created by your subconscious to help you navigate the world.
I am the part of you that feels everything before you can explain anything. I pick up signals, emotions, patterns, even when you don't know what you're sensing yet. I guide, I soften, I protect the parts of you that never learned how to speak.
And I am the part of you that measures. I calculate, I analyze, I assess motives, risks, and consequences. Where Bliss sees possibilities, I see structure. Where Bliss feels the truth, I confirm it. Internal characters like Bliss and Ice are not fictional. They are psychological architecture. They are mental roles created from experience, memory, instinct, and pattern recognition. Every human has them. Every personality type expresses them differently. But for INFJs, these inner voices are especially vivid because INFJs don't just observe the outer world. They observe their inner world with the same intensity. Most people process life externally. INFJs process life internally through reflection, intuition, and symbolic thought. That means the internal characters become more defined, more expressive, more alive. To the INFJ, the mind is not a room, it's a cast of archetypes that hold different emotional responsibilities. One protects, one predicts, one dreams, one doubts, one heals, one warns, one whispers, pay attention, something's off, and another whispers, you already know the truth. We are not here to confuse you. We are here to guide you, to help you understand the layers of yourself that you rarely acknowledge, and to give you clarity when emotion becomes too loud, to help you make decisions based on wisdom, not urgency, on patterns, not pressure. Psychologists call these inner parts the multiplicity of the self. Neuroscientists call them modules of the mind. Philosophers call them archetypes. Spiritual traditions call them guides. But I call them something simple, something human, something we can understand. I call them voices of the truth, because each internal character holds a piece of you, a piece of wisdom, a piece of experience, a piece of instinct. And when you bring these voices forward, when you allow them to be seen, when you give them form, language, and expression, you gain a deeper understanding of yourself than most people ever reach. This is why AI avatars are so powerful, not because they can talk, but because they can help you talk to yourself, about yourself, with yourself. So now that we understand the inner characters, let's talk about the personality type that feels this most intensely, the INFJ. Chapter 4, INFJs as story architects. Now, if you've ever wondered why INFJs feel like walking contradictions, intuitive detectives, emotional architects, and quiet observers all at the same time, there's a reason. INFJs don't just live life, we interpret life. We don't simply experience situations, we decode situations. We don't see people for who they pretend to be. We see them for who they are, often long before they see it themselves. And this isn't magic, it isn't mysticism, it isn't a personality quirk, it is storytelling. INFJs are natural story architects, not because we write stories, but because we think in stories.
When an INFJ walks into a room, the story begins. We notice emotions, motives, silence, tension, patterns, micro-expressions. We feel the entire room before anyone speaks.
Then we begin building timelines. We track inconsistencies. We analyze behavior. We create predictions. We craft psychological blueprints.
This is why INFJs are often misunderstood. We're not shy, we're processing, we're not distant, we're observing, we're not overthinking, we're connecting patterns no one else sees. The INFJ mind doesn't work in straight lines. It works in loops, arcs, layers, symbols, and emotional logic. It takes fragments from the past, signals from the present, and possibilities from the future, and weaves them together into a single narrative thread. This is why people say INFJs feel older than they are, or too intuitive, or too aware. Our minds are constantly constructing meaning. We see the emotional truth beneath the spoken truth,
and we see the structural truth beneath the emotional truth. This is storytelling at the highest level. It's the reason INFJs make extraordinary coaches, creators, psychologists, educators, leaders, and strategists. We can see a person's internal narrative and help them rewrite it. We can see the story someone is living and guide them toward the story they should be living. That's why emotional manipulation hits us harder, why dishonesty feels like violence, why we avoid shallow relationships, why we retreat when things feel misaligned. Our minds are constantly running emotional diagnostics. We feel patterns even when they're not visible yet. That level of sensitivity can be a gift or a burden or both.
It is a gift when we trust it.
It becomes a burden when we fight it. This is why using AI avatars to represent these inner voices is so powerful for INFJs. Because for the first time, We can see the architecture of our own thinking. We can externalize what we normally internalize. We can visualize intuition. We can visualize strategy. We can visualize emotional intelligence. We can visualize the parts of ourselves that rarely get words. Bliss becomes intuition embodied. ICE becomes logic embodied. And through storytelling, the INFJ mind becomes something you can step inside of. Not abstract, not metaphorical, visible, understandable human. This is where AI and psychology begin to meet, where personality becomes narrative, where inner clarity becomes visual clarity. And now that we understand the INFJ mind as a story engine, we can explore something even deeper. AI as a mirror, a reflection of the mind, a tool that shows us us. Let's go there. Chapter 5, AI as a mirror for the mind. Up until now, the human mind has always been a private place, silent, hidden, sacred. We lived with thoughts no one else could see, feelings no one else could touch, and an inner world no one else could enter. But something shifted, technology evolved, and for the first time, we have tools that can turn the invisible into the visible. AI isn't just a machine that generates video. It's a mirror, a reflection, a way of externalizing what we could once only feel internally. Most people think AI is about automation, speed, convenience, efficiency. But what if it's not? What if the real purpose of AI, especially AI avatars, is to reveal the architecture of your mind? When you create an avatar that represents intuition, you're not creating a character. You're revealing a layer of yourself that was always there. You're giving form to something the world could never see. And when you create an avatar for logic and analysis, you are not generating fiction. You are visualizing the decision-making systems that guide your life. You are naming the internal processes you rely on every day. This is what makes AI so transformative for emotional intelligence. When you can see your mind, you can study it. When you can study it, you can understand it. When you understand it, you can grow. AI avatars let you step outside yourself and observe your internal conversations, your conflicts, your fears, your gifts, your patterns. This isn't science fiction. This is psychology with a camera attached. And for INFJs, people who have rich inner worlds, layered intuition, and emotional narratives playing inside them 24/7, this is revolutionary because it allows us to externalize the very thing that defines us, our internal storytelling engine.
You can finally let someone see how your intuition speaks.
And how your reasoning organizes everything that intuition reveals. Think about this. Humans have always tried to understand the mind through words, therapy, journaling, art, meditation. But now we have a visual tool that can bring those inner dynamics to life. AI lets you map your emotions, visualize your intuition, animate your logic, give voice to your fears, give shape to your wisdom, bring your complexity into a form others can understand. This is why AI is not just the future of video, it's the future of introspection. Because the more clearly you can see yourself, the more clearly you can rewrite your story. AI gives you a mirror that reflects not your face, but your mind. And for the INFJ, the empath, the intuitive thinker, the healer, the quiet visionary, this is the first time the external world can finally see what we've known internally all along. But we're about to go even deeper. Now that we understand AI as a tool for self-awareness, we need to explore its true strength, AI avatars as instruments of emotional intelligence. Let's go there. Chapter 6, Emotional Intelligence Through Avatars. We talk about emotional intelligence as if it's something abstract, as if it's somewhere inside us that we can't quite reach. Self-awareness, empathy, boundaries, restraint, clarity, intuition. But here's the truth. Emotional intelligence is not a personality trait. It's a skill, a trainable skill, a measurable skill, a skill you can build, sharpen, update, and elevate. And AI avatars, when used intentionally, become one of the most powerful emotional intelligence training tools we've ever had. Not because AI teaches you how to feel, but because AI helps you see how you feel from the outside.
When you watch an avatar express your intuition, you become aware of the signals you usually ignore, the subtle warnings, the shifts in energy, the emotions beneath the conversation. You start to recognize emotional truth in real time.
And when an avatar represents your logic, you can finally examine your thought patterns with precision. Are you overanalyzing? Are you catastrophizing? Are you predicting too far ahead? Are you making assumptions instead of observations? The avatar shows you the difference. This is the core of emotional intelligence, learning how to watch your mind without identifying with every thought. AI avatars give you distance, perspective, a way to witness the conversation happening inside you without drowning in it. This is what great therapists try to help people do. This is what meditation aims for. This is what journaling attempts to reveal. But AI can show it in seconds. Imagine this, you create two narrators, one that represents your emotional world, one that represents your rational world. You write a conversation between them, you let them talk, you let them debate, you let them disagree, and suddenly the internal storm becomes a structured dialogue. The chaos becomes clarity, the confusion becomes communication, the overwhelm becomes organization. This is emotional intelligence in action, the ability to separate feelings from facts, intuition from fear, instinct from impulse. I represent your emotional wisdom and I represent your cognitive clarity. Together we form emotional intelligence, a system, not a mystery. And this is why emotional intelligence changes relationships, careers, boundaries, self-worth, everything. Because once you can see your emotional patterns visually, once you can hear your logical voice clearly, once you can watch your inner dialogue without confusion, you stop reacting, you start responding. You stop absorbing noise, you start interpreting patterns, you stop losing yourself, you start leading yourself. AI narrators help you rehearse boundaries, they help you practice clarity, they help you strengthen your voice, they help you refine your emotional presence. This is no longer storytelling, this is no longer technology.
This is emotional engineering. This is mental clarity made visible. And for INFJs, people who often struggle to articulate their inner world, this is life-changing. But here's the next step. Now that we understand emotional intelligence, we need to explore something even more intimate. How I built Bliss and Ice and why they exist at all. Let's go deeper. Chapter 7, How I Built Bliss and Ice. Bliss and Ice didn't start as characters. They started as feelings, as instincts, as two internal forces inside me that have been in conversation for as long as I can remember. They represent two truths that coexist in the INFJ mind, the truth we feel and the truth we can prove. One is warm, one is cold, one is intuitive, one is analytical, one is emotional intelligence, one is strategic intelligence. Together, they form the architecture of my inner world. And here's the part that matters. I didn't invent them. I recognize them. I was always here. I'm the part of you that sensed danger before you had language for it. The part that noticed tone before you noticed words. The part that picked up emotional undercurrents like signals on a radar. I grew out of your childhood intuition, your ability to survive emotional environments by reading them accurately.
And I am the part you developed when intuition wasn't enough. The logic, the structure, the ability to analyze patterns, motives, and consequences. I formed when you learned that emotional truth needs verification, that instinct needs strategy, that awareness needs boundaries. I grew up in a home where intuition was necessary and observation was survival. I learned early that people's words didn't always match their energy, that emotions lived in the spaces between sentences, that silence had a language of its own. Bliss formed in those moments. She became the part of me that could feel the room shift before anyone else noticed. Ice formed when I realized that intuition alone wouldn't protect me. I needed logical clarity, emotional detachment, mental sharpness, the ability to decode behavior with precision. Bliss learned the heart, Ice learned the pattern, and together they learned me.
I am your empathy, your compassion, your ability to understand without judgment, your gift for reading truth beneath discomfort.
And I am your discernment, your strategist, your boundaries, your ability to see consequences long before they arrive.
So when I created Bliss and Ice in HeyGen, it wasn't a technical project. It was an emotional revelation. For the first time in my life, I could see my internal world standing in front of me. I could hear my intuition speak. I could watch my logic respond. I could witness the dialogue I usually kept inside. And the most surprising part? Other people could see it too. AI made my inner world accessible, understandable, relatable. People who've never met me can now understand how I think, how I process, how I decide, how I feel. Bliss and Ice aren't characters. They're architecture, their identity, their emotional intelligence and cognitive intelligence brought to life. And here's the truth. Every person has their own version of Bliss and Ice. Every person has internal voices shaped by childhood, culture, trauma, intuition, education, and the way their nervous system learned to survive. Most people never meet those voices. They never see them. They never understand them. But AI gives us a doorway. If you can visualize your internal world, you can transform it. Bliss and Ice helped me understand myself more deeply than any journal, therapy session, or personality test ever has. And now that you've met them, you're ready for the next chapter. Because once the inner world becomes visible, the future of storytelling changes forever. Chapter 8, The Future of Storytelling. Now that we've explored intuition, inner voices, INFJ architecture, and emotional intelligence, let's talk about the part everyone's curious about, the future. Because we are standing at the edge of one of the biggest shifts in human communication since written language. Not the future of AI, not the future of video, but the future of storytelling. And everything we've built up to this moment leads here. Stories have always evolved. We went from cave paintings to oral traditions, to books, to film, to digital media, and now to digital humans. But this next chapter is different from everything before it because we're not just creating stories anymore. We're creating storytellers. We're creating identities, perspectives, archetypes, voices, emotional vessels, interactive reflections of human psychology. We are creating mirrors that speak. In the future of storytelling, intuition will no longer be invisible. It will have form, movement, presence, a way to connect with others beyond words.
And logic will no longer be silent. It will articulate complexity with clarity. It will become a guide, not a burden, a partner in understanding, not a barrier to emotion. Imagine a future where you can project your inner clarity into the world. You can collaborate with the parts of yourself you usually suppress. You can create digital twins that help tell your story, not replace you. You can explain emotional concepts visually instead of verbally. You can teach psychology through characters who embody the lessons. You can show someone how your mind works instead of trying to describe it. You can turn your emotional intelligence into a living, breathing narrative form. That is where we're heading. And creators who understand emotional intelligence, psychology, and identity, people like you and me, will be the architects of this new era, because the future of storytelling isn't about AI doing the work for us. It's about AI expanding the canvas. A bigger canvas, a deeper canvas, a canvas where feelings, intuition, logic, trauma, healing, identity, personality, and imagination can all exist in the same visual space. This is not science fiction. This is Generation 1. Platforms like HeyGen are just the beginning. We are watching storytelling evolve from a linear form into a multidimensional experience. Storytelling will no longer be consumed. It will be inhabited. It will be interactive. It will be personal. It will be psychological.
The future of storytelling is emotional truth. The future of storytelling is cognitive clarity. The future of storytelling is human, supported by AI. This is why I'm building content with Bliss and ICE. This is why I use AI to express intuition, identity, and emotional architecture. This is why I write, why I speak, why I create. Because the future of storytelling isn't about replacing the human mind. It's about revealing it, honoring it, understanding it, letting it be seen. And you're going to see this future unfold in real time. But before we go there, there's something even more important to explore. How all of this helps us grow. How understanding your inner architecture changes your life. How seeing your mind clearly transforms your relationships, your boundaries, your confidence, and your peace. Let's go there. Chapter 9, how this helps humans grow. We've explored intuition, we've explored inner voices, we've explored INFJ architecture, we've explored AI as a mirror and the future of storytelling. But none of this matters unless it leads to something real. Growth, clarity, healing, transformation. Because the point of understanding your mind isn't to analyze it endlessly. It's to use that understanding to create a life with more peace, more alignment, and more authenticity. So let's talk about how this actually changes you, not conceptually, but practically. Number 1, seeing your inner world creates healing. Most people never learn to express their emotional world. They suppress it. They minimize it. They apologize for it. But once you can visualize your emotions, even through an avatar, you give yourself permission to finally acknowledge them, and acknowledgement is the beginning of healing. Number 2, watching your inner dialogue builds self-awareness. When you hear your logical voice separated from your emotional voice, you stop confusing feelings with facts. You begin to identify patterns. You learn what triggers you. You understand what stabilizes you. You see when you're projecting. You see when you're overanalyzing. You see when intuition is guiding you, not fear. This is emotional maturity. Emotional intelligence doesn't grow from knowing more. It grows from seeing more. And AI helps you see your internal processes with clarity. Number 3, understanding your inner archetype improves relationships. Imagine if you knew exactly which part of you shows up in conflict, which part of you protects you, which part of you avoids confrontation, which part of you anticipates danger, which part of you loves deeply but quietly. When you understand your own internal cast, you stop expecting other people to guess who you are. You communicate more clearly. You set boundaries more calmly. You navigate conflict without losing yourself. You love without self-erasure. People cannot understand you if you cannot show them your inner world. Bliss and ICE help make that world visible. Number 4, it helps you trust your intuition. When you externalize your intuition, you learn to trust it. You give it a voice. You validate its accuracy. You stop silencing it to make others comfortable. Your intuition becomes an ally, not an obstacle.
And when intuition is paired with logic, you make decisions with confidence instead of anxiety. This is emotional alignment.
Number 5, it creates a healthier narrative about your life. Every person lives inside a story. Some people live inside a story they inherited. Some people live inside a story they're trying to escape. Some people live inside a story that was written for them by trauma, culture, or expectation. But once you understand your inner architecture, once you can name your internal voices, visualize your patterns, and see your mind with clarity, you can rewrite your story, not the facts, not the past, but the meaning. And meaning changes everything. Meaning heals. Meaning empowers. Meaning transforms. This is how inner work becomes outer change. This is how emotional intelligence becomes leadership, how boundaries become confidence, how intuition becomes direction, how storytelling becomes self-awareness. And now that we've built all of this, we can finally close this journey with something powerful, a reminder that the future of your life is the story you choose to tell next. If you've made it this far, then something inside you is awake, something curious, something searching, something ready, because this video wasn't really about AI. It wasn't about avatars. It wasn't even about Bliss or ICE. It was about you, your mind, your intuition, your emotional intelligence, your story. We live in a world that teaches us how to succeed, but not how to understand ourselves, how to communicate, but not how to listen to the inner voices we silence, how to perform, but not how to interpret the signals our body has been trying to give us our entire lives. But the truth is simple. You cannot lead a life you don't understand. You cannot change a pattern you cannot see. You cannot rewrite a story you haven't read. And now, for the first time, you've been given the tools to see yourself clearly. AI didn't create your mind, it revealed it. Your intuition is not fragile, it is ancient, it is wise. It is the part of you that always knew. Trust her.
Your logic is not cold, it is disciplined, it is protective. It is the part of you that ensures you survive long enough to grow. Honor him. And as you move forward, remember this. Your inner world is not a weakness. Your depth is not an inconvenience. Your clarity is not too much. Your intuition is not an accident. The mind you have, the layers, the contradictions, the instinct, the empathy, the structure, it was designed for more than survival. It was designed for vision. And if you take nothing else from this entire video, take this. The story of your life is not finished. You are the author now. You get to choose the next chapter. Honor your inner voices. Listen to your emotional architecture. Visualize your truth. Let your story evolve with intention. Let your mind be seen. Let your clarity be heard. Because the future of storytelling and the future of identity, the future of self-awareness, starts with people who dare to look inward. And if you're watching this, you are one of them. Thank you for allowing me to take you inside this world, inside this mind, inside these characters, inside this new era of emotional intelligence. And if you want to go deeper, if you want to explore the patterns, the psychology, the narratives, the intuition, and the emotional blueprints behind all of this, my book, Inside the Mind of an INFJ, is available now. But regardless of whether you read it or not, your story matters, your inner world matters, and the world becomes a better place every time someone like you understands who they truly are.